Hey, good morning, guys. This video is simply to help you with research paper. Remember, your main objective this week is to get that final copy of Essay 3 in by Sunday on or before 11:59 p.m. to Canvas. I have seen a couple of you turn them in and they look fine. There's only one that I noticed. Make sure you have that works cited page. I make you do it separately so I can try to fix any issues so those won't get marked off on the final copy, but you have to attach it to your paragraph. It needs to be the last page of your final copy, okay? If you turn it in and you forget your works cited and it's still before the deadline, then just resubmit the file and I'll be able to go in and print the works cited page and your essay. But it has to be in that assignment, that final copy assignment. Any questions on Essay 3, email me through Canvas anytime before the deadline. All right, the other part of this assignment is, or this week's assignment, is to look at the research paper. Okay, so this video is simply trying to introduce to you the research paper and what we're doing. Okay, now I tried to coordinate Essay 3 to be similar to what you're doing in the research paper, and actually everything we've done is going to feed into the research paper, and I hope help you to save some time. The research paper is long. It is 1,200 to 1,500 words. That does not include the works cited page. You're going to have a pretty hefty works cited page, but those words on that page will not count toward it. It is only essay, okay? So that's really important that you have the word count. What we're doing is we're looking at Annie Wilkes, who is one of the main characters from Misery, and we're still dealing with the film, which you have seen, I'm hoping, more than once, and you've definitely talked about it in essays more than once. So you are considered at this point somewhat of an expert. We're looking at Annie here, though, and we are going to diagnose her with a mental illness, which I don't think any of you will find that completely far-fetched. There's something wrong with Annie Wilkes, okay, and it's apparently obvious. I chose in this, since it's so quick, I'm giving you the personality disorder and helping you out with a lot of your sources simply because this is a scrunched class trying to get everything in Comp 2. So what we're doing is we're looking at Annie Wilkes and we're going to diagnose her with borderline personality disorder. Okay, that's going to be your first thing. And what you'll do is you will pick in the paper 4 characteristics that show Annie has borderline personality disorder. Now, one of the characteristics of this disorder is explosive, angry outburst. Okay, well, what you would do is that's one of your characteristics. You would say, okay, I need a scene where Annie has a real angry outburst. Okay, well, there's several. One is where she finds out Misery has been killed off, and then when she finds out when she just busses at him for all the profanity in his book. I mean, she is outraged, okay? So there we have a characteristic, and we have an example that connects Annie to that particular characteristic. So in your paper, let me just show you this. This is the assignment sheet that might help you as you go through, and it's got every paragraph you're going to use, okay? So you're going to have a total of 10 paragraphs, and you'll notice paragraph 1 and paragraph 10, that's your intro, and that's your conclusion, okay? All right, your first body paragraph is going to be a characteristic of the disorder, and then an overview of the first scene. So what you would do in this paragraph is you would have explosive, angry outburst as your characteristic, and you would pick a scene where she is angry and has an outburst, okay? And then you just talk about her behavior. It's pretty much all you're doing is explaining the scene and showing me, the reader, how she reacts in an angry way, okay? Then this second body paragraph is going to be talking about the same scene, and it's going to be talking about the same characteristic, but instead of talking about her actions or her words in the scene, you're going to talk about film devices. So some of you may be able to take Essay 3, what you did there in the scenes, and talk about the same devices. But instead of talking about how these devices show the element of suspense, you're going to show how it highlights Annie's anger or highlights Like, in other words, you've explained the outburst. Now you're going to show how the director uses film devices to really highlight and pinpoint that anger, okay? So like the lighting may be completely focused on her face so that you can't miss her anger. Or there's a close-up of her face where you see her eyes and you see her turning red, that she's that angry, okay? So in other words, you're going to have two body paragraphs where you talk about one characteristic of borderline personality disorder and where you talk about her behavior in one scene, and then the next body paragraph will talk about the same characteristic, the same scene, but you'll simply talk about film devices, okay? And then you're going to rinse and repeat. You'll have another characteristic that you've picked, your second characteristic of borderline personality. You'll pick a scene where Annie's behavior or actions show that she has this characteristic. The next body paragraph is the same characteristic, the same scene, where instead of you talking about her actions and her words, you're talking about film devices. How do the film devices highlight, show, portray this characteristic as well? Okay, and then you'll do it again. Third characteristic. Show me how in a scene her words or actions, and then in that same scene, show me how the film devices highlight that characteristic in Annie. And then you have your fourth one. Fourth characteristic, where you pick a scene and you talk about that characteristic and her words and her actions, and then your next body paragraph is simply talking about that same fourth characteristic, same scene, and how the film devices highlight or portray that characteristic. And then paragraph 10 is the conclusion. Okay, so really what you have here is intro. You have a body paragraph where you talk about a scene and you talk about words and actions, no film devices. Your next body paragraph is where you talk about film devices, but it's the same characteristic and the same scene. Okay. Now, as you go on with this, you'll notice it gives you some more information, 1,200 to 1,500 words. It doesn't include the works cited page or your header, which is just your name, date, and my name. You're going to have to document the material, okay? I'm going to walk you through that step by step, give you everything you need, but you've got to have the works cited page. If you turn in this research paper with no works cited, I don't grade it. Okay, you will do it separately like we've done with all the other essays, just so I can comb through issues and fix those problems before the final copy. Again, trying to save you having any of those points taken off from your final. But you will have to submit the paper and the works cited when it's due. And it's going to be due July 21st, so be prepared for that. Here's your sources: the film adaptation of Misery, handout from the textbook Writing About Movies, which I'll give you. 2 articles on borderline personality disorder, and then 2 credible film reviews. I will give you 2 that you can use. You're more than welcome to go to this website and find others if you want. But I will be giving you those, okay, just to kind of streamline, help us keep moving forward. Okay, and this little box just tells you we're doing Annie from Misery, and we're diagnosing her with borderline personality. All right, here's 2 articles on borderline personality disorder. Guys, I would probably click right here and download it and print it out if you can, but here they are. This one is really a simple, how do you say it? If you wanted to Google it, if somebody you knew had borderline personality and you wanted to quickly get an overview of it, this is simply a real easy one, okay? So we're using it because it's going to be easy for your reader to understand. But we also need another article, this is article number 2, where it's a little more scholarly, okay? And it starts right here, and I would glance through all of these. These give us good information about the disorder, and you need to kind of know what we're talking about here. So definitely read these articles. And then I've given you I've just made this very simple. It's nothing fancy here. But this is just the characteristics. You've got to have 4 characteristics. So I just put them in a PowerPoint so it's real easy for you to go back and look at and remember. Explosive, inappropriate anger. So we talked about that with Annie. Another one is paranoia, where you think somebody's out to get you, or something's happening, or you're always just worried and think something bad is going to happen. That's paranoia. Self-harm. Does Annie ever show any examples that she might hurt herself? Abandonment issues, like you don't want to be, you're afraid to be left alone, you're afraid of rejection, all of those too. And these go, the articles with these characteristics go into more detail, gives you a better idea of these characteristics. Another one is impulsive behavior, where you act without thinking. And usually they result in bad decisions. And then the sixth characteristic, unstable interpersonal relationships. I mean, does Annie even have a stable relationship? Probably not. I mean, she had to kidnap someone to have a relationship with that's not founded on true feeling. Feelings of inadequacy and self-loathing. In other words, does Annie feel like she's inadequate? Does she hate herself or doesn't like herself at some point? And your eighth one is irritability. In other words, do you get irritable about things that may seem illogical or they don't quite make sense? Okay, so what you're doing is you're going to pick 4 of these characteristics, pick a scene, one scene to go with each of your 4 characteristics where you believe Annie, through her actions and words, show this characteristic. Okay, all right. The assignment for this week, on or before Sunday night at 11:59, is to do this brainstorming sheet. Now, I've included it here, but you can click on it right there and you're able to type right onto it. Really simple. Annie Wilkes and borderline. What I want you to go ahead and do is try to pick your 4 characteristics. So right here, you would type in irritability. Okay. And then I just want you to come up with a scene and then describe briefly. This is where Annie does this. This is irritable behavior because, in other words, I want you I don't have to have like essays written in here. I just need you to go ahead and start thinking about characteristics and scenes that might fit with them. Okay, there's a second characteristic with the scene, third characteristic, and fourth characteristic. Okay, now, if you go through these and you decide that's not what you want to do, like you change your characteristics, it's fine. This is just brainstorming. This is just to force you to go ahead and get started on your research paper. When you finish it, you will submit it. Hold on. Hold on, I don't know what it's doing. It won't go up for me. Okay, there it is. What you'll do is you'll come back after this is where you download it, and right here, this is where you click on it and you submit it here, okay? So Sunday night, you need that Essay 3 final copy. Most of you turned in a draft. Most of you did more of it. You just putting the finishing touches on it, making it pretty, turn that stuff in, make sure works cited page is included. Go ahead and get started on research paper, read the information, learn more about borderline personality disorder, and do your brainstorming sheet where you come up with 4 characteristics that you think you might be able to fit Annie into, and go ahead and tell me what scene you think might work. Okay? All right, any other questions? Just send them to me through Canvas, guys. Thank you.